go live if I hear some dings. I heard some dings.
What are the dings for?
I have dings in places that. Oh, I just realized I never put up a event in our Discord, but I have alerts that go off in our Discord community that indicate that we are live now, so that way people can join us.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
I also have tabs open that say, "Hey, you're live." So those are the dings. Whenever Barry or I reference the dings, those are.
Can you send me the link to the episode on LinkedIn?
Yeah, it'll be like the one that is live tomorrow, or the one now.
Isn't there one that it goes live? Like
yeah. So I did put those in the invite for you.
Oh,
so
okay, good. Those are the ones that I. Okay, perfect.
Yep. Yeah, there's like the.
I'm still learning, Nick.
No, it's okay. It's all good. Live streaming is its own beast, and it's so it's interesting to get up here and do this every week.
Respect. That's all I can say. Respect.
Barry and I still encounter some technical issues on a weekly basis, so it's like, we're still figuring it out over here too. It's a miracle this thing even comes together in the end, and that we're able to put something out there that people listen to on a semi-regular basis. Kind of surprises me. There's so many moving parts. Sometimes things break down. Sometimes people break down.
Oh God, don't we know that one? I mean,
yeah. I had a moment earlier this week where I'm like, it was Monday, it was Halloween, and I usually put out the news on Tuesday.
Okay.
And because I put out the news on Tuesday, I usually do it Monday night, and I was like, there's no way I'm doing it tonight. I had a family friend over, and we had just gone out trick-or-treating. Everyone was really exhausted. I was running around, in a big inflatable pumpkin suit. There's probably some pictures.
Sorry.
No. It's great. I think there's probably some pictures I can show here. I can pull up really quick of me in a giant pumpkin suit for everybody's enjoyment.
That's hilarious.
But anyway, so I usually put out the news on Monday night at midnight, and that didn't happen because we were tired, and so then Tuesday was the first, which means that we put out a different thing. We put out the monthly recap for October, and because I wanted to include our conference coverage for HFES in that recap, I also had to do. Anyway, the way the week worked was Monday I put together the conference coverage recap. Tuesday I put together the news recap for the previous month, and then Wednesday I ended up doing the news for Tuesday. But it all worked out.
Well, I was just having that conversation today about my philosophy, because it's so simple, but apparently it seems to be unique in a sense that not everybody really can like surround themselves or comprehend or work with a philosophy like that, like an attitude. And it really isn't anything like, it's like, oh my God, I'm so unique, whatever. But I really just live by the philosophy, if it doesn't work out, we'll try again, or we'll do something else. Like, I just don't have that fear of like, oh my God, this is going to be the end of life. what in the world if this doesn't work out, you know? Like, I just don't have it.
Yeah, I used to think in a lot of ways like that, especially when establishing this thing. It's like, oh no, we're gonna miss a week. What are we gonna do? People are gonna stop listening. Maybe a few, but it's not the way things work. Oh no, the audio on this episode is trash. Like, there's an episode where I was recording with the wrong mic, and so the whole thing sounded like something like this. Maybe the whole audio sounded like this.
Oh my god!
And I was like, oh no, funny. Gotta make sure I turn it back. Otherwise, that could be really bad.
Because I mean, nobody wants to listen to that, right?
Right. Well, I had to do a lot of cleanup on it. The audio version turned out okay, and the video version was. And that's another thing too. Is like, I kind of prioritize the audio version. I can clean up background noise on an audio version and put it out there. It's harder to do on the video version because then you got to sync up that audio track with, you know, the voice. And if you don't capture things in 2 different tracks for the video, then you have to match up multiple tracks. It's a whole editing thing. So I prioritize the audio version and just kind of put the video version out there and use elements of the video version for, you know, the fun stuff that people like to watch anyway. Like, we don't get a whole lot of people. Sense. We don't get a whole lot of people who watch the whole episode on video. We get a lot of people who really enjoy the shorts that we put out there. So that's kind of, you know.
I laughed.
At which one?
Which one? What do you think?
Could it happen to be the pronunciation one?
I think that's going to follow me for the rest of my life.
Oh, man. You know, what's funny is that one is one of the top played ones on our account. So.
Of course it is.
It is. But I mean, you know, also the another one that's got a lot of plays, which I'd argue is maybe even a little more embarrassing, is during our during our conference coverage of HFES. A commercial break ended, and I was kind of caught unaware. And I was eating a bag of nuts, and yeah, so oh, we're live. Oh, you caught me with my nuts in my mouth. So that's been one of the other top ones that we've put out there, and
it's hilarious because it's all so innocent, but it comes so across so different, and it's hilarious. No matter what humor you have, what type of person you are, it's got to be hilarious. Like, you can't.
Yeah.
I can't imagine somebody not finding that hilarious.
933 plays on that one. Nuts in my mouth. And then yours has somewhere upwards of 600, at least on YouTube. Anyway, that's just the YouTube stats too. That's, you know, there's a ton of other plays.
You gotta give it. That's only been up for 1 week.
Yeah, exactly. All right, I promised Nick in a pumpkin suit. So let me get Nick in a pumpkin suit up here. Hang on, inflatable pumpkin suit. There you go.
Oh god, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Let me see if I can zoom in a little
bit.
There you go. That's me after running around in a pumpkin suit. Pretty tired.
Oh my god.
If you're watching or listening live, type in the chat. What were you all for Halloween? Did you have a good Halloween? Or some highlights?
We're missing our sassy, sexy bots.
Oh yeah. Those ones.
We don't have them.
Was a adult friend websites.
Adult friend websites.
They'll be here, maybe.
Sassy bots. Sexy bots.
Like I said, that's really atypical. We don't. I mean, we get them occasionally, but not out in force like we had last week. That was a great one for you to be a part of.
The second it came up, I was like, what's happening? What's happening? I'm like, do I ask Nick? Is that normal?
You can always ask in the chat. In our little private chat. You can always ask me anything there.
That's what I ended up doing.
I don't know how many people realize we have a private chat on our end. Oh, yeah. I'm surprised anyone saw that pumpkin too. There was a cute fire truck ahead of me. If anyone missed that, I will put that back up. It's the cutest little fire truck I ever did see.
It is cute. You gotta give it.
Yeah, he was really happy. Yeah, important to note that I was not trick-or-treating for me. Trick-or-treating for that fire truck.
Well, I was kind of sad because this is my first year in this house. I just recently bought this house. And so I was waiting for all the trick-or-treaters and nothing.
Nothing, huh? We had, I guess, we had one group of people as I was putting my son down come to our door, but it was also raining up here. So, I mean, it wasn't anything where, it'd prevent you from trick-or-treating. Maybe it came down a little harder later, and earlier in the day, but during prime trick-or-treat hours, it was fine. But yeah. We decked out the front of our apartment with a big pumpkin display that I'm super happy about, and now the fun part of taking it all down this weekend.
Oh.
I mean, I put a lot of hours into that pumpkin display.
I can't.
It's really cool though.
I wish there was it sounds so ridiculous, but I wish there was a way where you could kind of open a net or something and then just throw it over the house and then everything is decorated.
So that's, yeah. So,
please tell me that does not exist.
It doesn't exist, although I have the same general headspace when it comes to decoration. I don't think of everything in bits and pieces that you put to make a composition of something. I think of, you make the composition and you move the compositions around, right? So this pumpkin display that I had, it's built on a platform, and so next year we can change up, and it's modular, so next year we can kind of change up how we display it, but it's one big unit, and it's probably the size of, it's like a 5 foot by 4 foot board, right? So you can place that anywhere and kind of dress up around it, but now that work is done, right, we can do something else with it next year. We also have a pole of trick-or-treat buckets that are pumpkins that we just ran a PVC pipe through and anchored to the roof outside, and so it's we have this big stack of buckets that we have to figure out how to store.
Oh,
so there's
you can't leave them there year round.
Nah. No, I'm sure somebody will have an issue with it, and yeah. And plus, we gotta decorate for the holidays. So I mean, that's kind of the next step.
I generally look at it as I'm gonna put my Christmas tree in the window, just in the front window,
Mm-hmm.
And that's my decoration.
Oh,
You're
there you go.
welcome.
Oh, that's fine.
To
That's perfectly
everybody.
okay. You know what? That's perfectly fine.
You're welcome.
I'm one of those people who it's almost a sickness really. Who really enjoys the like decoration aspect of holidays, right? I think for
Okay.
Halloween it's because I see how much joy it brings to kids who come to the door, and that's fine. Um, the holidays are a little bit different because it's you don't get people, you don't see the reactions unless you live on like a really busy street and people are driving by your house and walking your neighborhood. You don't get that, but just knowing that somebody will smile as they walk past your stuff that you've worked on out there is kind of nice. That's kind of the same philosophy with the show, right? If somebody smiles listening to this, then it's worth it.
So when I grew up in Germany. So I'm German, I'm Iranian and German, and I grew up in Germany. And I grew up in a town that had an American Air Force base, literally in town. And like, we could get into the political pieces of it, but we're not. But basically, they just plopped it inside of our town. And there was like fights for like 50 years about it. But anyway, and they're gated, right? So you can't go on. But during the holidays, because they all did this excessive, Americans decorate excessively with lights, right? And all these absolute gaudy, like, decorations. It makes it all look like, a cheesy Wonderland movie, So during the holidays, they would open this lane and in your car, you could drive through and just look at all the lights. And so like my mom and I used to drive through and just look at all the lights and all the decorations. And we'd go, look at this one, look at that one, look at this one. And we did that until I was, oh my God, I'm not even embarrassed to say it, in my 20s probably. We loved it. So there is something about that. I will say that. I just don't have the nerve for it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like even our home display, watching my son just smile whenever he sees the pumpkins, or
Pumpkins.
when he'll inevitably look at the inflatable snowman and be like, snowman. Yeah, that brings me joy, so it's worth it in the end. Oh, where are we? So, hey, looking at these show notes, I just want to make sure you have a chance to go through and look at some of these it came froms, and then your one more thing at the end there. Just want to make sure that we're prepared for.
The one more thing is a struggle today because I have 100.
Okay.
So I'm not, and the PM story is very like I'm gonna like give you your thoughts, because that is something that is, as a veteran in this career, it hits, it's like, yeah, we've all had that, we've all been there. It's a delicate situation, but
yeah, some good it came from this week for sure.
I like your comment.
Oh yeah. He tripping. Oh, hey, look who decided to join us in the chat. It's Mr. Barry Kirby.
Oh,
there he is.
Hello.
So Barry, it's funny that you wrote in just now, because I was just about to say, if y'all were wondering where Barry is, he's out on holiday this week. But he just can't stay away. He just can't stay away. I told him. I will bring up my chat with him I'll only read the part that's relevant to this. But he says, "Sorry, I didn't want to drop you in it, but apparently I'm getting grouchy and harder to live with, etc. So I need to take a holiday." And I say, "No worries. You should absolutely enjoy your holiday." Okay. All right. Okay. You know what? He is enjoying his holiday. He just had some. Okay. I'm just going to put the comment up here. Let's see here. Just finished playing some family games. Now having a glass of wine. So really, Barry, no different from a normal Thursday night, right? I'm just
What?
kidding. That would certainly make this show a lot more.
What? The wine?
Though, yeah. Burn. Yeah. I wonder if
I
that
have
would
a
make
lot
this...
of different. I have a lot of different beverages sitting on the side of me. Apparently, it's a thing some people have.
Oh,
I
yeah?
like to have a selection of beverages to choose from.
Okay.
I
can see
just
that.
haven't figured out how to drink them on camera.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I just cover up the logo and go for it. Right, this is an energy drink.
Oh, you just okay?
I just go for like the only time I don't do it is during the show. Right, you can drink on screen. People
During the show.
Yeah, when
So.
the 1 hour between, so in like 8 minutes to an hour after that, that's when I don't drink, unless I'm playing one of these little numbers. That's when I sneak it in. When I do these, that's when I sneak it in.
You are tricky. I like it. I'm learning all these tips.
Yeah, there you go. See? And I also have a couple different options on my end too. I got water, energy drink. One to keep me awake and energized.
In some sense, I am such a German. Okay, I just finished that one.
Barry says, I go away for 1 week and the standards go through the floor. Look, if you're over there,
we don't have your British authority reigning over us, Barry. So, what is it when the mouse is out? I don't know. When the cat's out the house, the mouse come out to play or something.
That's a saying.
Apparently, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm so bad with those sayings. Like, I want it in my head. I want to say the German one, and I just want to translate it. And then when I translate, it makes no sense. It loses its humor. It loses its meaning. It loses everything.
When the cat's away,
the mice will play. Thank you. Amanda said. Okay. Thank you, Amanda.
Well, thank you, Amanda. And thank you, Amanda, for letting Barry tune in on his holiday.
On his holiday.
It's got to be some quality prime time. Wait, it's not prime time over there. It's late night. Wait, you guys, Barry, you guys changed your clocks, right? So you go 1 hour earlier. So is it?
Yeah, we had a week this week, so it's the same in Germany. We had a week this week, and then the week in the spring, you have 1 week where it's 1 hour less. So this week I only had a 5-hour difference to my friends, and then on Saturday they switch, and then it goes back to the regular 6 hours. And I think for Barry it's 5 hours, and it was 4 hours. I think that's how it works.
Oh, for you, yeah, because you're East Coast, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because I'm East Coast. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm doing the conversions in my head. Yeah, Barry, we still haven't changed clocks over here, so I think next time we meet, the clocks will have changed. Oh, well, we're about 5 minutes away from the show. If anyone's watching, listening, has any sort of thoughts around today's topic, which is talking to dead people through the use of artificial intelligence, drop that in the chat. Would be curious to see sort of what people think. We already got some great comments from the lab that I will bring into our discussion today.
I saw that, yeah.
I'm just looking through the notes here. I think there's plenty to talk about here. I don't think I need to pad this with any more, but
yeah, I think we have some of the same thoughts on the second one. Thanks, Barry. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us during the pre-show, Barry. Enjoy your holiday.
And, I did. I did find the microwaves in Europe for Barry, so I need to send you the link. He can purchase them in Europe. He just has to order them.
He'll be happy to hear about that.
I know. You're welcome.
By the way, little fun fact, today's artwork is actually brought to you by artificial intelligence. So I ran the prompt, grieving family talking to a hologram of their dead loved one through DALL 2, which is an artificial intelligence that generates images based on word prompts, and that is what came through. Is the artwork for this week. And for any of you watching who can't necessarily see it, I will bring up an image right here of the prompt and the artwork, just so you can all see. But I thought this was an interesting application to use it on, because we're talking AI here, and why not, right? So there's the prompt, grieving family talking to a hologram of their dead loved one, and here are the 4 options that it came up with, right? And this is the first thing I put in, the first thing that came back. I didn't mess with it at all. That's it. You can kind of tell on some of these faces that it's struggling a little bit, but for the most part, I mean, I think I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one part in it is missing, but that's my point to share.
All right.
I'm really struggling with my one more thing this week. I have a very sensitive one, and I don't like bringing it up because everybody thinks I'm a freak for it. But
here, what if I told you to make your selection based on what you think will be a good short or something that people will resonate with?
Yeah.
I think that would be probably, from a producer standpoint, one of the better options. Is I'm looking for those like sound bites that we can convert into those shorts, because again, people like those. But if that helps you narrow down the selection criteria any way. And go with that. Well, once you've selected your one more thing, I will go ahead and hit that button and get us started, but you just let me know.
Do you like my question marks?
Question marks. There's a lot of question marks there.
Yeah, it's one thing I always feel that with all that, this kind of the same thing that I had last week, it always falls into that realm of like, with all the technology we have, and you can't get this to work.
Ah, I know, right? Okay, you ready?
Let me take a sip from the
Oh, you'll have a couple seconds here during the intro, but yeah, if you want to.
from the quill. I'm gonna try to read this as slow as possible because I'm such a fast speaker.
Just be deliberate with it. Yeah, I tried to split up the sentences into bullet points, so try to break it out a little bit for you.
That's actually very helpful. I like that.
Good. All right.
I should probably put it on the screen here so that I can that I'm actually looking at. No, sorry, I can't do that because I'm too blind for it.
That's
I was hoping I could. I'm too blind. Sorry. Needs to be on the big screen. All right.
Well, we'll take just a quick break and we'll be back with the show right after this.
Woohoo.
Welcome to Human Factors Cast, your weekly podcast for human factors, psychology, and design.
There's some background noise here.
I just heard that. I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Give me 1 second. We'll get rid of the background noise and all right. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started here. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Human Factors Cast. This is episode 263. We're recording this episode live on November 3rd, 2022. I'm your host, Nick Roome, and I'm joined today by Heidi Mehrzad. Welcome back to the show. We had you on last week. Couldn't stay away.
Hello.
We got a great show for you tonight. We're going to be talking about technology lets us speak to our dead relatives, and we'll also answer some questions from the community about stepping on a product manager's toes. The practical difference between UX, human factors, and human-computer interaction in the workforce, and advice on pushing back against dark patterns. But first, some programming notes, community update. Just if you're in the United States, election day is next week. Go vote. That's first and foremost. Go do that. That's really important. Also, next week, there's not going to be a show. We're going to do a short hiatus next week on the 10th. No show. I will be in a cabin in the woods. That's part of my one more thing, but we'll talk about it then. If you're unaware, we did a ton of info. We did a ton of stuff out of Human Factors Ergonomics Society annual meeting, and we've now compiled a blog post recap of everything that we've done. It's out there on our blog. Please go check it out if you haven't already. And we also have our October news roundup for anyone who wants to follow up with the news. Barry is not here with us today. He's out on holiday. But if he were here, I'd ask him how 1202 is going. And he's still got the latest from Marcin Nazarek on proactive learning. His interview with him is still up on his channel. Go check that out. He'd tell you all about it over there. But good stuff. I listened to the interview earlier today, so I knew what I was talking about. All right. Well, with that, why don't we get into the part of the show we like to call Human Factors News. This is the part of the show where we talk about some interesting thing, human factors related. Heidi, what's the story this week?
This week, the story is technology that lets us speak to our dead relatives has arrived. Are we ready for it? So, this week, our story is all about talking to dead people. Well, sort of. Technology like this, which lets you talk to people who've died, has been a mainstay of science fiction for decades. But now it's becoming a reality and an increasingly accessible one, thanks to advances in AI and voice technology. MIT Technology Review has published a piece on talking to voice assistants of dead relatives constructed by the California-based company Hereafter AI, empowered by more than 4 hours of conversations they each had with an interviewer about their lives and memories. The company's goal is to let the living communicate with the dead. It's not hard to see the appeal. People might turn to digital replicas for comfort or to mark special milestones like anniversaries. At the same time, the technology and the world it's enabling are unsurprisingly imperfect, and the ethics of creating a virtual version of someone are complex, especially if that person hasn't been able to provide consent. For some, this tech may even be alarming or downright creepy, but there's something deeply human about the desire to remember the people we love who've passed away. We urge our loved ones to write down their memories before it's too late, and after they're gone, we put up their photos on our walls and we visit their graves on their birthdays and we speak to them as if they were here, but the conversation has always been one-sided. If technology might help us hang on to the people we love, is it so wrong to try? So, Nick, what are your thoughts on this?
It's, I'm all over the place with this one. My initial thought is this reminds me of a Black Mirror episode that we've actually talked a lot about on the show. They mentioned in the story, and Blake and I back in the day actually did a full like commentary on. We did for our patrons, we did a sort of watch along for this. But at first glance, this technology seems like an awesome idea, right? Help others preserve the memory of loved ones. And at the base level, that sounds great. But as a human factors practitioner, my mind immediately starts trying to solve for some of these worst case scenarios, many of which we will talk about. But I just think this thing is riddled with maybe more problems that we need to solve than it has solutions for. And I'm wondering if it's worth it. But Heidi, what are your thoughts on this one?
So I actually, like I said in the pre-show, this is a very personal one for me. I suffered a lot of grief over the last couple of years, a lot of loss. I look at it from a pure human factors psychology point. The psychology is more important for me in this aspect. And I simply have a very strong and firm belief that you should not be delaying the human reaction, which is grief, which is dealing with the pain, which is dealing with certain things. Because what I see with this is people in the very initial stages of grief using this as a not replacement, because you can't replace, right? But as a hold on moment, like thing that delays grief. It furthers isolation because they will eventually be in a situation where they want to have that, but you can't take it somewhere, right? Like you can't take this in your pocket and go somewhere, right?
Or can you?
Well, there you go. These are the things, right? And social communication. The number one thing you need during this time is other people around you, right? You need support, and that support will decrease if you keep focusing on this, right? And then worst case scenario, disassociation from reality, right? Which reminds me of the Black Mirror episode as well, right? So how the urge to constantly do more and bring this thing to life eventually, right? But at the end of the day, it's not real. So you can't replace. There's no replacement. So eventually you will get to a threshold where it will come crashing down on you. And I do wonder if, with all this technology, are we not asking for more issues in our psychology when we already know that social media itself has already destroyed the minds of an entire generation, right? What are we trying to do? Just destroy everybody? Like it's a very like, and then there's a creepy part, but that's for somebody else to speak about, because it's just to me, Siri is already creepy. I'm one of those people who literally doesn't talk to their phone and doesn't have an Alexa and doesn't have a Google, and I will never ever give commands in my house to a robot if I can prevent it. I mean, I don't know. What do you think about the psychology part, or do you have any other thoughts about it?
I mean, I think the psychology part is kind of key to this, right? You're right. There's a lot going on in a person's head in those vulnerable states when they've just lost someone, when a lot of things are changing for them very quickly. And this, I think, can be useful to some, but harmful to others. And maybe that's a good place to start the discussion is where, what types of people will benefit from this and what types of people will be hurt by this. And, that's actually one of the points that someone in our lab, Katie, brought up in our private lab chat earlier today, but I'll elevate it, right? It's, it'll be helpful for some, hurtful to other people. And how do we screen for that? There's sort of this screening process, I think, that needs to happen to understand who is ready for this technology and who isn't, and how can we tell who is going to benefit from this technology, who's going to suffer even more because of it. And really that comes down to the question of, are we ready for this in society? And so I don't know, like what types of things do you think people are looking for when it comes to this technology? Or I guess what should we be looking for in people who is looking to use this technology? Like what aspects, attributes?
Well, I mean, with Katie's point, right? Like, for me, we as a society currently, and we're just taking a snapshot, pandemic, politics, division, social injustices everywhere, injustices everywhere, right? I don't see our society being in a mental health place where we should bring this upon society right now. There is so much grief around the world because of the pandemic. I don't see this as something that would be positive, influentially positive. Now, I do see. I'm not sure if you want me to expand on the point Katie made, but she brought up a movie in this, right?
Yeah,
a movie reference for P.S. I Love You, which is a movie with, if I remember right, Gerard Butler and Hilary Swank. It was a cute movie in the early 2000s, I think. And in the movie, her husband dies, and in the movie she receives letters. He had scheduled letters because he knew he was dying. So she started to get letters after he passed away. And in the movie, they make it look so, as if these are the things that are helping her to heal, when it really is just the actions that come from the letters. So that's the mystique around it for me, because sometimes, let's remember, it's a Hollywood movie, right? So, a lot of it is not based sometimes in true reality, and a reflection of the world. So, in the movie, she healed through the letters, quote unquote. But I think, having gone through grief myself, pretty recently and still going through it, I think there's an element of like, should we consider psychological evaluations for this?
Yeah.
That was one thing I thought about. I think you need to be evaluated in order to be allowed to even have something like that. And even then, it can cause other things, you know, it's not a guarantee, but I don't think anybody and everybody should have access to something like this.
No, and then that opens up a whole other can of worms too. It's like, what happens if, you know, you do get evaluated or you do go through the screening process and whoever it is on the other side of that deems that you are unstable to, or not unstable, but you are unable to process this in a way that's going to be healthy for you.
Right.
How do we sort of, I let them down gently or communicate to them that this is going to be harmful for you, and it, you know, might feel like we're trying to keep them away from their loved ones. That in itself could be an entire process that is damaging, and so that process then needs to be looked at from a human factors perspective as well. And it's just like, where does this end from
Where does the
a
Pandora's box end, right?
Exactly. There's just so many different things that we could open here, but I think overall, you know, there definitely needs to be some sort of regulation for sure around
Yes.
this. And, you know, I will bring up another point that Alex in our lab talked about here about maybe potentially one of the uses here when it comes to healthcare and specifically memory care settings, right? Alex says, especially as people especially as people around them age and pass away in ways they cannot understand. I've been firsthand at the moment someone with dementia is explained that their life partner passed 15 years prior. It's horribly traumatizing for such a short moment that they won't recall later, but they will still experience the effects of the trauma. It obviously goes into deep ethics questions, but as a tool to maintain safety and comfort, it will be invaluable. So there are applications in which something like this could, I don't know, ease those moments where maybe memory is not permanent or semi-permanent, or there's some memory issues to where those moment to moment interactions will provide a little bit more relief, right? This is where the ethics question comes in, is because, like, do you implement this for those moments alone? Is it ethical to not necessarily communicate that their partner is still alive or anything like that, but that will it help sort of ease that moment if they're able to communicate with them? I don't know. These are questions that I don't have the answers to. This is a lot of like really deep stuff that
Yeah,
we're jumping into right away.
yeah, I know. Well, that's what the topic is, right? Like it is so all encompassing because, you know, I could now bring up like, what about data privacy? What
Yeah.
about the person never being able to give a consent to this? I mean, not to be super dark humor here, but I am German and Iranian after all. My mom would slap me across the face if I made something like this with her, right? Like I know she would never approve of this, right? So that's not fair. And I feel like that also gets almost in a category of disrespectful
It could.
towards a human who has now no choice, and we're giving them no choice because they're gone, and we're reviving them in a, who knows, creepy way. I mean, I'm gonna go ahead and guess the initial versions of this aren't going to be perfect, you know, so there's going to be glitches in it. I mean, let's remember how Siri used to be and how, you know, the first Alexa was, and you know, it gets into that can of worms for me. And then as far as the dementia and the Alzheimer's go, I'm not sure it would help, honestly, because trauma triggers a physiological response, and that physiological response is not preventable. They inadvertently, even if you don't mean to, or even if they have moments where they realize that they're not there anymore and that the things that they believe are not true. Whether or not we can AI some of those moments away, which I don't even know how you would do that, because what does that mean? You show them a picture of themselves, or you show them a loved one who passed away previously, right? But then you still have to tell them that that's a robot and that they are passed away, right? So you're again, this brings me back to the delaying of everything. You're delaying the process, you're delaying grief, you're delaying confronting it, you're delaying with it, right? So
Yeah, Alex brings up a
okay.
great point here. You know, something frequently occurring in memory care is stuffed animals with voice boxes of their loved ones or deceased persons.
Okay.
So I think the idea here is that this might take the place of one of those, right? This could be um, an AI voice box. But I mean, you're right. There is. I mean, that does open up a whole bunch of ethical questions and things that we're not going to answer on the show today because we simply
No.
just don't have the time and frankly credentials to do
Nor,
so.
I was going to say, nor am I an expert in this field.
Right. And so, you know, I think I do want to jump back to consent, though, because you bring up a good point. And with this story specifically, they are using the consent of people who are alive, right? This person who wrote this article, this person's parents were interviewed for 4 hours, meaning that they had consent and that everything that they told them was kind of reviewed, and they use that as their data set. I think the consent becomes an issue when you have that Black Mirror scenario, and really this is almost like required reading or listening, watching for this episode is that Be Right Back episode with Domhnall Gleeson, Haley Atwell, where they basically someone dies and they have to digitally recreate this person using existing communications, so like text messages between them, um, or like videos that they took or pictures that they took, and so using that as the data set that maybe that's where I think the consent issue comes in is if you're using it without their permission. However, if it's when they're alive, I think that becomes a lot easier. It could almost be like in preparation, like a will type of thing, where, you know, I give permission to this company to create a digital version of me for these people, these specific people to use after I am gone, and that could be interesting too. And that also opens up another question that I'll get to in just a moment. But you know, that when it comes to consent and all that stuff, how do you monitor violations of that consent? You know, what happens if somebody else interacts with it? You know, it says this person, this person, this person are able to interact with my digital self, but somebody else is over and they say, you know, hey, whatever voice assistant, let's talk to grandma, and you know, somebody else is in the room with them. Like, how do you deal with that scenario? So there's the consent question, but then there's also, I was mentioning the interview piece, right? This is with people who are alive. When do you interview somebody? Do you interview them in their prime, when that is what a lot of core memories of that person will be about? And when you think back on experiences with that person, you'll likely think of the good times, the good memories, them in their prime. Or do you interview them at end of life, when maybe some cognitive function has broken down at that point? Their memory of certain events will be skewed because of the time between those events and when they are doing this interview. It really is a question of, when do we do these interviews, and when are we hoping to sort of capture what a person is like? And then also, if you do it too early, you don't get the history with that person, right? If I were to do an interview today,
or the wisdom,
if I were to do an interview today, I would have 3 years, you know, of history with my son, and I wouldn't be able to talk to him about memories that we have when he's 5, 7, 10. But he would get me in, I think I'm peaking right now, maybe. I don't know. But, you know, I think there's that to deal with too, is like, when do you talk to somebody, right? And so that question of when do you interview people is another thing that I was contemplating. I think there's probably a prime time to interview somebody, but
well, see, I look at it a little That's interesting because I had a thought. Let me see if I can connect that because it connects a little bit to that. So I had a thought about how with social media and currently we've already created a society, global society, that lives this like FOMO thing, right? So is this yet another thing that we're putting upon ourselves, forcing upon ourselves to make sure you get this info in before you die, right? It's this. I'm not sure if I'm going to bring it back to what my point is, but it's this thing about not doing something and then missing out. But the thing that we're doing is for an experience or a thing that is not even here yet, and it's there. And in this case, you're dead. So why aren't you enjoying your presence, right? Instead of focusing on these things that are going to be after, right? So yes, I will, my end thought to that is, yes, it sucks when your loved ones pass away and they didn't leave a lot of videos, a lot of voicemails, a lot of texts, a lot of emails, not even a lot of pictures, because that's just not who they were, right? But and then I hear stories of, I don't know if you ever heard of this thing, like some parents have started writing their children an email every day or every week they're alive, and then when they're 18 they give them this like long, they give them the password to the email inbox, and then they have this long history of what happened in their life and what their parents said and all that stuff. And that sounds wonderful and sweet, and yikes, if you have the time to do that, great. And if you can think about that every day, great. But this fear of missing out, that if you don't have this data before this person or you die, then you don't have the opportunity to do this. I think that creates for me another pressure that I don't need from technology.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, I'm thinking of it more of like I'm anticipating that people will think of this more like a will. It's something that you could do and are maybe advised to do for a will, but is this advisable? That's TBD. But something that that you build in for ensuring that your loved ones are taken care of post mortem, right? And I think
sure,
this is obviously like something we haven't even touched on right now, are the cultural values associated with a technology like this. Some people are going to get really offended by this technology. Some cultures, this is like completely taboo. But we're talking about it today. So, like, I just want to mention that there are situations where this will never even come up. But, I think
the world is changing.
Yeah, we can see. I mean, there's a couple extra things that I want to talk about here. And there's really no good way to jump into it. I'm just going to jump into it. There was mention of nefarious purposes. I'm going to bring up another comment that Katie made in our Discord earlier today. So
Okay.
My biggest comment about it is, as cool as it sounds, to record hours of your loved ones talking about their lives. One of the things I love with people I'm close with is hearing their opinions about things like current events, problems in our lives, or whatever comes up. A lot of that changes depending on what else is going on. All their experiences regarding whatever we've talked about or whatever we are talking about. Having stories is a fun concept. Just wonder if the ability of the tech to share opinions and give advice might come across as manufactured or could even be manipulated. Calling back reference to some of your cybersecurity concerns last week, Heidi. So what happens when somebody hacks a dead person's artificial intelligence to manipulate people into giving to manipulate those AIs to give bad advice, like investing advice or writing somebody else into their will or something like that, or into giving them PII that they could then read some of the input that somebody's given, right? There's a lot of PII cybersecurity issues going on with this whole concept that really we've touched on some security issues, but this is like a whole can of worms that we could open. I just wanted to open it and kind of put it on the shelf because there's a lot of ways that we could go down with that one.
Yeah, the deep fake, absolutely.
Yeah.
The deep fakes that already exist. I personally, not to make fun of it at all, but this is truly, I personally already don't like that there's facial recording everywhere, right? So if we are already, if people think they're not already recorded somewhere, they live in a delusional world. So you already exist on some database with your face, with your facial recognition connected to your credit card, connected to your name, connected to your GPS points. Like, you're already there, right? So for me, the danger in this is, again, for me, the deep fake. You mentioned investment advice, you mentioned, giving wrong things, but I could even take it further, and I don't want to make the episode too dark, but I could take it further. When people are grieving, there's a lot of cloudy darkness in their minds, right? So one wrong word from this bot or whatever you want to call it can trigger, I mean, not just traumatizing, but critical life-threatening situations, right? So that alone, with a cybersecurity issue, gosh, I mean, now we're just asking with all this technology. I feel like we're just asking for it. We're just asking for what was the robot's name in the movie that Set Free with Will Smith? Like, what was that?
Oh, I don't.
Was it Anne?
I'm drawing a blank on it. I know what you're talking about.
But we're just asking for it. I'm just waiting for it at this point, to be honest. So I don't know that we can control cybersecurity. I mean, we can't even get data privacy laws in place because, we could bring it to a political corner, but, because our senators are so old that they don't even know what a password in some instances is, so we have these people arguing in Congress about data privacy laws on social media platforms and data harvesting and all those things, like, how are they gonna regulate this?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Great tie back to holes. Great tie back to politics. Go vote. So, I mean, you brought up a couple really good points, right? People are deeply vulnerable in the stages after somebody has passed, somebody important in their lives, and so there must be some sort of either regulation or control over what messages are being sent out and the use of these things, right? Because you're right. One wrong word and they could go off deep in themselves into an even deeper depression or something. Something triggers a memory within them, or you name it, right? There's you also brought up the robots, right? That opens up the question of how far is too far. We've
Where's the line?
Right, exactly. In that episode that we keep referencing, right? They kind of go through the stages, right? You have a chatbot, and then from a chatbot you go to a voice that's deepfaked, and then I don't know if they ever go to video, like a video call, but then the next step is sort of automaton that looks like the person, that is infused with deep fake voice and the personality. And so how far is too far? I think I think both of us are in agreement that maybe the first step is too far, the chatbot stage, right, where you're bringing back anybody. I think there are better ways to honor the dead and to bring back some of those memories, even if it's just like, I think a video interview would probably be better, because then it's factual, it's record, it's somebody is just relaying their thoughts and opinions to somebody else as they are, not some artificial intelligence trying to interact with you. It's just a record rather than that. Do you have any other last I guess last thoughts on this? I could talk about this all day, but I think we got to move on here.
My last thoughts would be two things. The video you bring up was one of my thoughts too. If this is something that people desire, I think companies should look at creating pretty little digital portfolios that have a bunch of videos in it and categorized by like topics. So like you can go in there, you can remember like a funny thing you had, you know, your mom, your parent, whatever, whoever, your husband, daughter, whoever can tell you a story that brings joy to your face, right? That I could see really being something stimulating in a positive sense. Them just, like you said, just telling stories or just telling memories and it being joyful memories, not interacting with you and answering to questions you might ask. That is dangerous. Other thing that I have with that is also, when as a society are we going to stop and recognize that we need to stop developing technology in this space, in this pace, without regulating it? When are we going to catch up? We are still so behind. I mean, we're not even on Europe's level yet. At least they have a data privacy consent form on their websites. I mean, I don't know if you've ever, listeners, if you ever travel to Europe, if you Google something, the first thing that comes up is you have to give consent. You can't go to the website without giving to consent. It's like it's now a normal thing over there, right? So we're not even there yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're lagging behind that, and we want to create chatbots with our dead loved ones in it. That would be my last
Closing
word on
thoughts.
that. Like as with social media, I mean, look at I always bring it back to that, but it really is a thing. Look at all the data harvesting that went on over the last 20 years. Nobody gave consent. I don't remember at any time as a 16-year-old giving consent for my data to be stored somewhere, but it was.
Mm-hmm.
And now we can't get out of it because there were no laws in place back then, and there are no laws in place now. We don't protect users. We only protect tech companies with the laws. So that, for me, like, if we could figure out how to protect users, maybe.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you. Go vote. The last couple things I'll
Go
bring
vote.
up here is there's so much that we didn't touch, right? We didn't touch the UI of this. How do you interact with it? I'm just going to open up a bunch of different can of worms here, right? You could do voice assistant, you could do chatbot, you could do other sort of physical manifestations of this thing. How does the AI handle any novel input when it doesn't understand what to do in a situation? How does that respond? There's some other questions that I have around putting the AI into different modes with different goals. So, getting somebody out of a grieving stage could be like one mode. Providing somebody with knowledge about that person's life could be another mode, or even companionship. We talked about AI companions on a show a while back, but can you turn a dead person into a companion? And should you, is a whole other question. And then can we turn grandma into a voice assistant? I think that might be kind of novel, but those are a bunch of different can of worms that we don't have time to talk about. If you want to keep talking about this stuff, please go join our Discord where we can continue this discussion. Thank you to our patrons this week for selecting our topic, and thank you to our friends over at MIT Tech Review for our news story this week. Like I said, if you want to follow along with all the stories that we do post the links to the original articles on our weekly roundups on our blog. And join us in Discord for more discussion on these stories. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back to see what's going on in the human factors community right after this.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember, it depends.
Yes, huge thank you as always to our patrons. We especially want to thank our honorary Human Factors cast staff patron, Michelle Tripp. Patrons like you keep the show running. Seriously, the studio looks like this without y'all. Hang on, let me just. This doesn't work for audio, but there you go. It looks like that without you all. Uh, Lights on joke is getting old. I need a new one. But especially want to thank our honorary Human Factors cast staff, Michelle Tripp. All right, let's talk about this is the part of the show where we usually bring up some other stuff that we have going on. Treasurer rang and said, "Did you know that we have a merch store?" They wrote this. Some neat designs over there include It Depends shirts, a show logo like the hoodie I'm wearing tonight. I'm not wearing it. Sorry, you need to tell me that I need to wear these things. Other cool designs based on human factors culture, like I'm going to human factors the shit out of this. I think is one of those shirts. There's no such thing as hues or error, and of course, our favorite 5-star review or favorite review, not 5-star that we've ever got. If you want to support the show, look good doing it. We do have a merch store. Go check it out. All right, there you go, Treasure. Are you happy? I'd like to get into it. Came from now. Let's do it.
It came from.
That's right. This is the part of the show where we search all over the internet to bring you topics the community is talking about. If you find any of these answers useful, no matter where you're watching or listening, give us a like to help other people find this content. It's all about those algorithms, folks. So let's get into the topics tonight. So we have a couple here. This first one here is Stay Super Clean on the UX Research subreddit. The title is, quote, "Don't make concrete recommendations. You're stepping on PM's toes." All right. So they write, I had an interesting conversation with a PM earlier, and I'd love for folks to weigh in. I created a detailed document with research methods, approach, and recommendations for a large project that just wrapped up. Most of the recommendations in the report were UI related since users encountered serious issues with usability. I met with the product manager today to talk through this. He said my work was high quality, but I should avoid making concrete recommendations since that's his domain. What the hell? Is this normal? Is he power tripping? Any advice? I'll also mention that I'm new into UX research. It came from an adjacent field where researchers are empowered to make concrete recommendations. Heidi, is this PM tripping? What's going on?
Oh, I have a lot of comments to this. I'm gonna completely sideswipe the gender thing and the age thing, the authority thing, because this is something a PM would say to a new person, to a junior person. They would not say this to somebody like me. And I think there is where the crux actually starts. I think this experience is, yes, very typical for PMs. I do understand the whole situation around it. We could speak about that. But first and foremost, I want to bring this to the forefront because that's the first thing I reacted to was, is this a man telling a woman telling a man? Is it an older person and a younger person, junior person and a senior person? Like all these things weigh in.
What's the dynamic?
Because, in the dynamic, because a PM saying something like that, like I said, to me today, I would be like, all right, cool. Next time you create one of your little project things and MS, project and whatever in your timetables, I'll point out that I can do that better than you. So I think one thing that I would say to this is there needs to be established boundaries, right? There needs to be clear roles of who does what, right? And that is not the PM's decision. But despite of what everybody thinks, it is not the PM's decision. It is the whole project team's decision, right? What is the goal of the project? Who actually ordered the project? Who are the project leaders? Who are the people who set the goals for that project, the objectives for that project? It always comes, oddly, it's just how this world works. It comes from above, somewhere. It was ordered, right? So I would revert back to that situation and seek out your managers or your, leadership team that is in that realm of that project team. Maybe even somebody who is outside of that project to get advice, to have a conversation and understand clearly what this PM might mean, because it clearly cannot be that he or she is making design recommendations as a project manager, because that's not their role. So
No.
to bring it back, Nick, yeah, he tripping.
He tripping. That's what I had too. I think my simple thought is that product managers make decisions, not recommendations. They take recommendations and make decisions based on those recommendations. And if they don't take your recommendation, that's one thing. But if they say not to make recommendations, that is encroaching on, they're stepping on your toes in that case, because that is your job as UX research, as a researcher in general. I think it's pretty cut and dry to me. PMs make decisions, not recommendations. Researchers make recommendations, not decisions. And although we can certainly influence those decisions greatly, I think you're absolutely right. The whole power dynamic piece is a really important part of this.
Yeah.
But yeah, he tripping. All right, let's get to this next one here. This is by the Quantum Lady on UX Research subreddit. Intersections between UX, human factors, and human-computer interaction. What is the practical difference in the workforce? All right. They go on to write, the last several months, I've been on my own personal career journey trying to figure out my next steps. So it's had me thinking about a lot of titles we apply to our work. I've been looking more deeply into UX research because I've been doing what I consider UX relevant work for the last several years, but don't have formal education or knowledge in that area. The work I do is a combination of hardware and software, specifically in VR. Someone recently suggested that my work may be more human factors rather than UX, or possibly even HCI, since VR headsets are essentially wearable computers. I've dipped my toes into a lot of different disciplines throughout my career, various physical sciences, and enjoy interdisciplinary work rather than becoming an expert on any particular topic. My question is, what's the practical difference between UX, human factors, and HCI in the workforce? I know there's definitely some overlap. Can anyone shed light on this? Heidi, what is the difference between these three?
Ooh, my favorite topic. Initial thoughts is human factors. Let's be very clear about like titles and roles, right? Because what is the difference in these? We can establish that, but the problem is also that these titles and roles are interchangeably used everywhere, right? So you might be called a human factors engineer, but you might be working as like more a UX researcher on that particular team, or you are maybe more involved in the HCI component because you are working within a company that is software focused on the interface. So now your role is to be more HCI focused on your work, right? So it depends a little bit on the role within the company, what the product is you're working on, or the service, the product, whatever it is. Whether you're in consumables, consumer products, whether you are in medical products and all these things. From a human factors point, and I apologize, I only have the medical part and the aviation part, which both were regulated industries. So from that point, I think human factors is a more technical role, in a sense that we are there to apply the science of human factors, right? Because that's ultimately the science of it, right? UX is a part of it, usability is a part of it, HCI is a part of it. They're all components of it. But human factors is the science overhead, covering everything. And you are there to apply that science. So that with that in mind, human factors in general, it focuses on the interaction between human and something, right? Machine, product, interface, whatever it is, right? But at the same time, you're also trying to achieve certain goals. And that's where these underlings come, right? You're trying to achieve a user experience. You're trying to achieve usability. You're trying to achieve a smooth human-computer interaction, right? A touch point. So those are all those things. So that's what I think is the difference, where you are more focused on one part of the science in those particular roles, where if you work in human factors per se, my job as a human factors expert is to look at something and ensure that it is safe and effective, right? Because that is one of the goals of human factors, right? So my job actually involves risk management, right? My job actually involves doing analyses, right? Assessing harms and hazards and all these things, right? Where that as a HCI person, right, who's more focused on the interface, right, they might not be so enthralled with the risk management side of something when you're developing a product, right? So that's, for me, that's more the difference in the who does what and what role specifically, and with that, as that being the human factors part is more the umbrella. You could end up doing anything and everything under that umbrella, even ergonomics in a sense, right? The physiological part, where if you work in a specific field, you are more focused on that specific component. At least that's how I see it, and I think I'm pretty spot on with it, but I'm not sure. Nick, am I wrong?
No, I think you're right, and I think we only differ in a couple places, but not even to the point of where it's worth arguing about. I think generally
Oh,
human
damn it.
factors is that umbrella, and then you have
Yeah.
sort of UX and human computer interaction that fall underneath that umbrella, right? Where human factors and ergonomics is designing for humans. That is kind of at the high level, right? That includes safety, that includes interface, that includes ergonomics, that includes everything, every aspect about designing a product, policy, procedure for a human. Underneath that umbrella, you have UX, which is taking user needs into account to design products for humans, but there's little to no standardization when it comes to that piece. There's not a whole lot of peer-reviewed journals out there. There's just, it's like Scrappy. It's kind of the Scrappy arm of human factors, where people are just trying to do something to get feedback from users, and you can do it with more or less rigor depending on the requirements. But UX is often at the mercy of scientific research to push that field forward, where they are just kind of using the methods and techniques to find out some information about the users that are using their product, and to then make recommendations based on understanding of those users. It's kind of tech oriented, although there are other companies that have UX in their title that don't necessarily do interface. Now, human computer interaction is kind of focused on computer based systems, right? It's a subset of human factors and ergonomics, but they're looking at computers. Honestly, in this case, for this person, I think they kind of do a little bit of everything, but I think mostly it's probably human factors work, since you're looking at kind of a VR environment. And there's more context that I left out of the overall post, but they're looking at like safety and things outside of the environment too. And I think when you come outside of the interface itself, that is when we're talking about human factors applications. All right. We got one more here. Yeah. We got one more here. This one's by Adventurous Key 5423. That's fun to say. On the user experience subreddit, they say advice on pushing back against dark-ish patterns. They write, some of my team stakeholders want to improve on our site search by removing a search bar. Their idea means that stakeholders literally don't want users to enter keywords. They prefer users to dig through our heavy navigation and possibly irrelevant category-generated links. Our stakeholders defend this idea by saying users don't like to input text and would rather click through links and navigation to where they want to go, despite being very contrary to our historical data. In my opinion, this is a misguided and possibly gray or dark pattern. Not having text input to improve search results doesn't make sense if one accounts for how users typically use on-site search to find products. I'd appreciate any feedback on this to help me through it. Is it worth pulling my hair out? Heidi, what do you think?
Yeah, nope. That's my response. You know that movie? Nope. I think with this, you're just asking for it. I mean, at this point, we have a certain behavior. We have developed and evolved in a certain behavior. We have customized certain things, yes, but we have also stuck with certain things that people have now become almost, I don't like the word so much because I think it's misused too much, intuitive, right? There's a lot of intuitiveness behind this, right? We are now used to this. Yes, I could argue the other way too, that, change is positive and change is not always bad, and things, I eventually got used to my iPhone now having no home button. Let me tell you, that was a 2-year struggle. But it's just, that in itself for me is just asking for the user to be dissatisfied, first of all, with your product. So you're going to have a huge plus on the other side of the mountain for the user to accept the steep climb up the mountain, if that makes sense. That's how I see it. I don't see users automatically preferring this to something that they're already used to. And for that, things that are now come to you naturally, almost intuitively, right? Like I bring up, I thought when I first saw this, I thought about like when I drive a car, right? I don't have to think about using the blinker. I just do it, right? Same, as funny as it sounds, is with the search bar. I don't even bother to correct my typos in the search bar anymore because I know Google will correct everything for me. And then if I need to adjust, I go back in and I change a word and boom, I have other results. So I don't know. Some things are good. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. I don't know, Nick. You want to reinvent the wheel?
No. To me, this is a big yikes. Because look, there's how do I put this? There's so much control that you have. There's only so much control you have in your role as a UX researcher. Now, for product manager, we mentioned they make decisions. You make recommendations. If they make the decision to go forward with no search bar on this thing, depending on the domain, it could be really damaging. But if you truly have no control, you can always let them shoot themselves in the foot. The thing I will advise for is if you do let them shoot themselves in the foot, put up a big argument for it beforehand, take metrics that back up that data beforehand, and then take metrics that back up that data after the change has been implemented. So that way you can say, hey, you remember this thing that we did? It's not working. Here, look, here's the before and after. Because that will be really valuable to them, and it will sort of increase your value within the company, and you can show them, look, I accounted for this. It's a way to get ahead of that stuff. So that's my thoughts on it. Yeah, go ahead.
I have one more thing, but this is business related. This is career related. This is the best advice I ever got. Well, there's two, but I can't mention them. They're too much cursing in it. Let's just say that. But and this one isn't easy either, so I'm just gonna say it. You can bleep me out. But the thing that I got, the best advice was write or document something along the sense of CMA. So this is what my boss told me. Whenever you have something like this, put in writing, create a CMA document, whether it's an email, whether it is an official letter, whether it is, some kind of record that this is the advice you gave and this is the reasons why they disagreed with you, or why they, rejected your advice or even ignored it. I would explain the circumstances around it, and I would put in there again your reasoning why you think this is a bad decision, and then send it to everybody on the team, literally everybody. This is what my old boss used to call the CMA folder. You have a folder in your email account. It's your CMA account and your CMA inbox, and that's it. And just in case you didn't know what CMA stands for, it's cover my ass.
There you go. Good advice. Speaking of one more thing, that's just part of the show where we talk about that's exactly it. One more thing. Heidi, what's your one more thing this week?
Hard to choose. I had to struggle. So between facial recording without consent at every store now at the checkout lane, Between that and the wonderful interfaces of mortgage websites, I'm going to go ahead, both bug me, but I'm going to go ahead, keeping in line with the topics we had today with the facial recording. So here's the backstory on that. So I noticed about a year ago, I think, oh God, maybe it's already 2 years ago because I haven't been back to the store. I noticed that Walmart put up these cameras over each checkout lane, and it just starts recording you. No consent, no opt-out option, nothing. There's no sign anywhere in the store. There's nothing. You don't get advised that this is happening. And let me be clear, I'm not naive. I understand that there's security cameras everywhere, but this is a close-up facial recording of you that can be used as, again, going back to data harvesting, that can be used to render facial recognition on your person without your consent. And I think we are going too far at this point. Corporate companies have too much power. Because at the end of the day, they're forcing us into the situation because we can't get around it. We have to go to certain stores, right? So I don't know. That's my icky topic. Like I keep at this point, I can't even go to most stores anymore. I've stopped going to Walmart. I'm in the process of stopping going to Target, which is going to break my heart. But I'm going back to ordering everything online. So,
and even they're collecting data on you in other ways too.
Right. But if I can keep my face out of it, at least just for maybe a couple of years, just a couple of years more. But
you know, Heidi, to be fair, I did send you a consent form for this. You read it and signed it with the guest release. So I'm just saying.
I did.
Okay,
I did.
yeah.
But see, there's the thing, right? I had an option. I was given a choice. And in these situations, you're not given a choice.
Yeah,
and
no,
if
true.
you walk into a store with the sunglasses on and your hat down and your hat on, right? Like now you're like, suspicious. So I don't know. For me, it's it's a no.
Yeah, it's scary. It's scary. For me, I have been freaking out over something else. So longtime listeners know my sort of election night ritual is to, I guess, stay up really late, look at weird towns and flyover countries and counties and flyover countries and say, oh, how many votes does this county need in order for this candidate to win? And I do that across all 50 states to see kind of how things are coming in live. Like I start at 3 p.m. Pacific when the polls close, and I go until like 3 a.m. until like the last dumps come through. Right, like it is a habit for me. It is ritualistic. I love it. It's part of the process. I have 3 different news sources up at any one given time. I'm refreshing on my phone. It is a whole thing. So, election is next week. Next week also happens to be my wife's birthday, and what she wanted to do this year is to go out to a cabin in the woods with no Wi-Fi on election day. So I will be
Good Lord.
I will be out in the middle of the woods without Wi-Fi, without cell service during election day. Thankfully I've already voted. We've already voted. But it's gonna be rough. I mean, like, there's apparently spotty, patchy data, so like it's going to be an interesting exercise to see how self-restrained I am and how, I guess, some neuropsychological conditions that I'm dealing with deal with this sort of situation where I don't necessarily have control over being able to check the results. We'll see. No show next week. That's it for today. That's it for today, everyone. If you like this episode and enjoy some of the discussion about creepy AI, maybe I'll encourage you to go vote. I'll go listen to episode 249 where we talk about Google's sentient AI. Is it really sentient? Go check it out. Comment wherever you're listening with what you think of the story this week. For more in-depth discussion, you can always join us on our Discord community. You can visit our official website, sign up for our newsletter, stay up to date with all the latest Human Factors news. If you like what you hear, you want to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do that. One, wherever you're watching, listening right now, you can leave us a 5-star review. That helps other people find the show. Speaking of helping other people find the show, you can always let your friends know about us. That is, word of mouth is really how we grow. And 3, if you have the financial means to do so, consider supporting us on Patreon. We do give back. Everyone on Patreon receives Human Factors Minute. We give back to everyone who supports the show financially. As always, links to all of our socials are in the description of this episode. I want to thank Heidi Mehrzad for being on the show again today. Where can our listeners go and find you if they want to talk about transitioning to a digital afterlife?
Better not me, first of all, but please find us on LinkedIn. Human Factors is my love topic to talk about. So find me on LinkedIn, either Heidi Mehrzad, you can DM me directly, or HFUX Research, Medical Human Factors. We are on LinkedIn, and we have an Insta, HFUX Research, and we have a Twitter, HFUX Research. So find us, come talk to us, and preferably not about dead people being on AI.
As for me, I've been your host, Nick Roome. You can find me on our Discord and across social media at Nick_Roome. Thanks again for tuning into Human Factors Cast. Until next time,
go vote.
Go vote and say it depends with me, Heidi.
It depends.
It depends. There we go. All right. That was the episode. Show now.
All right. We can drink.
We can drink. Yeah. Woo. We made it. Non-alcoholic. At least on my end.
Do we stream this?
What?
Is this, like, can people still see what we're doing right now?
People can still see what we're doing right now. Yeah.
That's hilarious. I love it. During the show, I realized that, what was the sentence I said? I think it was something with my face or something. I was like, all right, this is going to be a short. I already know it.
Oh, yeah. The shopping at Walmart with the facial recognition. Yep. Oh, hey, we got a comment from Alex. Love the episode. Love hearing your insight, Alex. Heidi.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I might have too much insight on it. It's these topics that you can't, it's one of those things, like you have your ritual with election, and I'm like, every time I walk into a store, I'm like, can you stop recording me without my consent? I'm just over it, but
yeah,
apparently, or so I'm told, I cannot stop technology from coming, so I just need to get used to it.
There's apparently technology out there. I haven't seen this along the same lines of like the checkout counter. There's technology out there. Again, I have not seen this firsthand, but I've heard about it, where if you fail to scan something that's in your cart, they have AI looking at your cart and looking at what you've scanned and comparing the two. And it will show you, hey, you have bottled water underneath your thing that you forgot to scan. Are you sure you want to scan that real quick? And it'll show you like a video of your cart, and it'll like.
Isn't that the Amazon, like that Amazon store that they now have this, like, it's connected with Whole Foods, like, because Amazon owns it now. They have this store where you go in, you don't even have to pick up a scanner anymore. It's connected to your Amazon account, and you just be scanning the entrance door that with your Amazon account, that you're in the store, and that they know what you're grabbing and what you're putting back. And then when you walk out, it just gets charged to your Amazon account.
Yep. There's that too. Which is different from the thing I was saying. It's like if you go to self-checkout and you forget to scan something, they'll say, hey, look, this is in your cart. Here's a picture of it. Here's you putting it in your cart.
Here's the way I feel about that one, right? I used to work at a grocery store at the checkout. And that was my love job when I was younger, because it's your first, it's one of those first jobs you have, right? You develop skills, right? You develop social skills, with people interacting, all kinds of people interacting in situations of people being frustrated, people being joyful, people being negative, positive, right? It gives you an evolving in your character, right? Development. And the more we put all this stuff back on the user, I mean, to bring up my mom one more time, because she was a hilarious woman. She used to say with the self-out checkout counters, she's like, why am I doing their job now? That's not my job. I don't want to do this. So I don't know, that the self-checkout is going to a level where, like, with the computers talking to you so loudly too. Like when you're doing something wrong, when you're scanning something,
Mm-hmm.
and when like we did something wrong, and like all of a sudden everybody around you can hear it. It's like, I don't know. But where's that technology? What type of technology is that based on? Like, what are they weighing? The weight in? Like, how does that know?
Oh, Alex's comment?
Well, camera scanning of what's in the car. Amazon does it by weight of things.
Oh, I thought that's what you were talking about with the weight.
Well, what you were talking about, like, how do they know what is in your cart underneath something, and that is in your cart, and how can they show you a picture?
Because they have cameras all over the store. And so they, like, basically when you walk into the store, they are creating an overhead profile of you and your cart, and they are monitoring everything that goes into the cart that you have handled, right? And so if you go to the checkout counter and they say, oh, they grabbed something from aisle 7, here's everything that's on aisle 7 that they possibly could have grabbed, our visual recognition tells me it's a bag of chips. And if that bag of chips is in the cart and you have not scanned it and you go to check out, it will say, hey, look, here's you grabbing that bag of chips off the counter. I have a picture of you grabbing that bag of chips off the counter, putting it in the cart. Here's it in your cart right now. Do you want to scan that really quick?
Oh, that opens a topic for me. Oh, because
Floor's yours. Go ahead.
Because here's the deal. The reason why they're doing that is because of loss. There's too much loss, right? But should we not, as a society, ask ourselves why there's too much loss?
Oh, yeah, no, I know. It's vote. Go vote, right? It's the theme.
Go vote, right? Yeah. Because if you have a community that is underrepresented and undersupported, you're asking for it. People can't afford the prices anymore. I mean, look at the prices right now in grocery stores. Are we kidding? Like, are we joking now? I'm paying $6.50 for a frozen pizza now. That used to cost $2.99. It's just one thing, but where is it going to stop? People can't afford things anymore, and so we shouldn't look into this. This is kind of the thing, like, why are we trying to fix the outcome instead of the root cause, right? It's like the doctor treating symptoms. Don't treat the symptom, treat the disease, right? That's why we have a sick society. So for me, this goes back to societal and socioeconomic issues in wealth, right? People can't afford stuff. So now, of course, corporates want to keep their prices and they don't want to adjust anything, and they want to be greedy. So they're just going to put insecurity systems down instead of fixing the root cause issue.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my...
No. I'm right there with you. I don't know how much more I have to add to that. It's like you've kind of, you have it. It's like there's definitely more to it than just loss.
Yeah, and I think we as human factors, especially as researchers, if you work purely in that kind of field, human factors, looking at everything from all angles, right? You are taught, one of the first and foremost things you're taught is to find a pattern in behavior, right? find the touch points, find the trends, establish a hypothesis, run an experiment, and prove it, right? Significant or insignificant, depending on outcome. But here's the thing. You as a researcher are not looking for the outcome per se. You're looking for the outcome, and then you're doing analysis to find the root cause, right? So we are taught to find the root cause. So when I look at these things, I'm like, okay, well, what is the cause for this, right? What is triggering this? And it's this like huge thing about, it's actually been a topic about, is it called prevention loss or something? Like it's a whole category in grocery stores, grocery store chains. And it's a huge deal because the loss is too high. And, let's just think about like all the videos of people walking out of CVS and Walgreens with, hundreds and hundreds of dollars of products, and they're not even being stopped because why? It's pointless. It's there. It's now societal norm, So, yeah, of course it's wrong. I would agree with that, but it is human behavior when you have no more choices. So I would ask our hearts and our souls, ourselves, like, how much longer are we going to allow corporate or society, however you want to look at it, to keep treating symptoms instead of root causes? Go vote.
Go vote. Yeah, exactly. And and drive me insane while I can't.
What are we going to do, Nick? Are we
anything.
going to send you little bottle messages?
So look, here's the thing. It says the place that we're going has 4G LTE. I don't trust that because it's in the mountains. It's in the middle of a rainforest. And so I have a feeling that what will happen is that I will get little spots of internet here and there. And it'll be enough for me to go refresh, and I'll just be able to see, some high level stuff. I won't be able to do the county by county.
Are you going to be like this? Refresh.
No,
refresh.
I think in some ways it'll be healthy because I literally could do that, and that would be the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting different results where, there may or may not be. I think what ultimately is going to happen is we'll have some activities for us to do in this cabin. And if I just so think about it, I'll pull out my phone, try to refresh if I see a 4G LTE, and it might just be, like I give myself every hour. I don't know. But like, seriously, it's a ritual for me. I told you, like I have data displayed up on multiple monitors.
You.
Like it's just, I love watching all the information come in and say, oh, look, this small county in in Georgia is like reporting now. What does that mean? Or like I have oh, this Clark County in Nevada, they're coming through. Like what's the status on everything? And comes from I don't know. It's I don't know why it feels fun to do that. It only feels fun to do that when you win, but
well,
it also, well, I mean, maybe not, because it is ritualistic, and in some ways, knowing how the progression of something happened is also part of that too, because in 2020 we had a lot of delays on things that we didn't know until a couple days later, and it was like agony.
Oh my God.
But living that experience of being like seeing certain counties reporting information and all the delayed mail-in ballots coming in and understanding all this stuff. So, I am getting a little bit of my fix early though, because I'm like watching the early vote. I mentioned last week that I was, monitoring how we're doing compared to 2020 and 2018 in terms of my local elections here, but also nationwide. And so it's a ton of fun.
I totally can empathize with that. So first and foremost, I would like to tell you that you might be shocked where you have internet reception with your phone. You might actually be shocked. So I backpacked Europe a couple of years ago, and I ended up climbing a mountain and hiking a mountain in Italy, and it was in like a cabin. Like this is it's extreme version, right? And I, for some reason, oh my god, this is a hilarious story. My friends did not find it hilarious. They were very worried about me, and I was told I'm never allowed to do that again. But I did not know that Google Maps is different. It's a different system in Europe than it is in the States.
How?
So I can't tell you. I can't tell you exactly how. I don't know the intricacies of it, but the way it maps is a little different. Whether it's off by points or something, I don't know how it works. But I followed everything, and I ended up in the middle of the mountain, like no clue where to go. Like I wasn't on a pathway anymore. I was like with goats. I was being chased by a mountain lion. Like I'm not joking. There was an ox and a sheep somewhere all of a sudden in the mountain, and they were very angry at me for encroaching on their territory. And so I was very desperate, and I got out my phone and I didn't know what to do because I knew I wasn't going to have, I can't do my phone. And I literally had reception, and I could make that one phone call to Mountain Rescue.
Oh my god.
So,
that's lucky.
So in the middle of a mountain somewhere in Italy where you have there's no towers, nothing, right? And all of a sudden I had this one blip. Like I was like, oh my God, I can make a phone call. So that would be my first thing. You might be surprised how much reception you have.
I hope so. All I need is data to come through. Like maybe once an hour, I'd be happy, just, here's some data. Okay, cool. That's all I need.
Just write it down on Post-its while you're doing stuff.
Oh, I could have a wall of Post-its, the Charlie Day meme, and just have red string everywhere.
You can get the big ones.
Yep.
And then the other thing would be probably like you triggered a memory I had of the 2020 election.
Oh boy.
Where I was when I found out. I was in the middle of a grocery store, and I was trying to discipline myself because I was checking my phone too much. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the grocery store. I'm not going to do anything. And then all of a sudden somebody next to me said it, and I dropped my basket. I dropped onto my knees, and I just started crying. I was just like, thank God. Everything just came over me. And I'm sitting like on my knees in the grocery store in my sweatpants and my boots, and just like in the middle of winter, where I'm in Massachusetts, snow, cold, wear my coat, and then just drop my grocery.
Oh, I think
screamed out, thanks.
I think your audio is cutting in and out. How your batteries on your headphones doing?
They're full.
Oh, okay. Well, you're fine now. You just dropped out for a second there.
Oh. Maybe somebody is trying to hack my headset.
Could be. The deep fake in my voice putting me in there saying, I don't know, things that might influence your decision.
Could you imagine that? Is it something that you could even get used to? Like, for me, it's such a foreign concept. Like, I don't think I would ever... In my lifetime, I don't think I'm going to get there. Do you think you can get there?
For what?
That whole AI thing.
Oh, yeah, I'm there already. I'm like, so...
Really?
So here's the thing. It's a scary technology, and I agree there's regulation, but I think there's some non-nefarious uses that are very cool.
Okay.
So for example, I posted in our Discord, I think it was last week, I was using AI to try to generate more music for the show. Like just random stuff that sounds like the source audio that we use for our main show, right? Here, I'll
Okay.
play it really quick, right? This. Right. So you put that in as a source, as a seed, and then it generates other AI generated music based on that seed that kind of has the same feel to it, but different, that matches the tone of the show, right? Because I mean, we have different songs in the show. We have that one, we have this one.
Right.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human.
Right, very different music, but all
Right.
kind of within that same feel. And so I was like, what if we could generate something? And it came back with some really cool stuff. Actually, I might be able to share it with you all as we're listening here. Essentially,
Really?
so again, I put our music in as a seed for this, and I'm going to share this with you all. But hang on, give me one moment here. So this is a service called Jasper, I think. Is that what it's called? Moobert. There's another one called Jasper, but this one's Moobert, and I've put in our bass song as the preview for this. And here's what came back. Okay, that sounds like within the same vein as our main show song.
Okay.
Can you hear that? Can you hear that? Okay, when it came through. So I don't know. I think it's really cool. So there are non-nefarious uses that you can do to make it seem fine. And like I said, I embraced AI for today's episode by generating the artwork from an AI component. Now, I think there are, and in fact, I do want to do further experimentation with AI to the point where Barry and I populate some AI. And actually, sorry, I use AI in more ways than I'm considering, because I used AI for the generation of the title for this episode. I used AI for we use AI in other ways for like Human Factors Minute generation. Sometimes we'll put something in there and it'll come back with a list of ideas, or a script that we then modify for our own purposes. And so there's a bunch of different ways in which we use it. So I'm embracing it, and I want to go further even with like basically creating a digital me and a digital Barry, a digital so having us here reacting in ways that we would normally react, and do a full podcast episode from start to finish, all AI. It's an experiment that I want to do, because you have hundreds of episodes of training data, thousands of hours, right? So you have all this training data of how we might react to a certain story. The input would be a single link to an article. That would be the input, and that's all I want to do. I just want to be able to put in an input of an article
and see what happens.
And see what happens. So it would do all the processes that I would normally do, right? It would take the article. It would find all the details about it. It would randomly pull in a couple of Reddit articles from the source subreddits that we're looking at. It would come up with some truncated version of the story. It would have Barry read that truncated version of the story. It would look at our website and see what's new and have me, report on that at the top. It would have us give our thoughts and opinions on something based on public consensus of, these. So I want to go further.
Would it come up with its own one more thing?
That's the interesting thing, right? Is I want to give it, I want to see what it does in those situations. It's like, what would it do in those instances where it is a personality based thing? Would it just come back with gobbledygook saying like, yeah, I'm freaking out, because this is one of the more recent ones, right? I'm freaking out. I think there's some things going on in my life right now that I can't necessarily talk about. And there's, the blah, 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 right? Would it come back with something like that, ambiguous enough but still able to provide substance? I don't know. So my whole goal with that is to create a pipeline to just generate like 2 or 3 episodes that we would give a disclaimer at the top. Hey, this whole episode is entirely automated, artificial intelligence. It would be like a separate bonus episode. But I want to see how close it gets to the real thing.
But you would check it before you...
No. So in some ways, yes, but no. So I would as an experiment, I would put that raw data out there and say, look, this is the episode. This is the episode.
No.
But I mean, there'd be like disclaimers and watermarks all over it saying this is a digital human. This is a digital human. This is a digital human.
There is software to get that out of your video.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know, but I don't think our audience is large enough, and I don't think we have enough of a target on our backs to do anything seriously nefarious with it. But
You'd be
that's
shocked where people pull stuff from.
Yeah, I guess that's true. But
you have the everlasting pessimist here when it comes to technology.
I mean, look, if somebody wants to take that stuff from me, I've put out enough data set for people to take what they want to take. So there's that. I'm on the show. There's hours of me talking, saying stupid stuff here. So
well, I mean, but at the same time, I totally it sounds like a fun idea. Like, I actually think that would be fun. But at the same time, for me, it's like, you are morally, ethically in a position where you can make that decision to use it for good, right?
Yeah.
Now, imagine that being done just by inputting something negative and then just let you and Barry talk about horrible things for like hours,
Oh yeah. No, it'd be really interesting to see what kind of output we get from the different inputs, right? Like a story on something cut and dry, like, I don't know, like design recommendations for X, Y, and Z. I want to see, like something that's fairly cut and dry, fairly researched versus something that's nebulous, ambiguous, doesn't exist yet, and kind of have a gamut of what that would actually look like. Anyway, there's a whole different, whole bunch of different ways in which we could go with that exploration, but it's something that I've talked about before. I just want to see what it comes back with. Like, then we can train the data set, and then maybe I don't have to do this every week. I could just put, a link in and have it generate everything.
Well, it is safe to say that those are going to be the episodes that Heidi does not appear on.
Yes, because we did not grab consent for that from you.
And I will never give it.
Nor would we ask for that. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. I can't believe we're already through the post show. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around. We will be back next week. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for all the good comments.
Alex and everybody in the chat for talking with us tonight. Yeah, we won't be back next week, but we'll be back the week after that, I think. I got to look because, yeah, week after that, 17. And then 24, we might come up with something else. That's Thanksgiving here in the States.
Next week, Nick will be suffering from having election news withdrawal.
Or I will be screaming with joy. We will see. We'll see. I'm hopeful. Anyway, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll be back. Enjoy your time and go vote. Do that.
Go vote.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Human Factors Cast brings you the best in human factors news, interviews, conference coverage, and overall fun conversations into each and every episode we produce. But we can't do it without you. The Human Factors Cast Network is 100% listener supported. All the funds that go into running the show come from our listeners. Our patrons are our priority, and we want to ensure we're giving back to you for supporting us. Pledges start at just $1 per month and include rewards like access to our weekly Q&As with the hosts, personalized professional reviews, and Human Factors Minute, a Patreon-only weekly podcast where the hosts break down unique, obscure, and interesting human factors topics in just 1 minute. Patreon rewards are always evolving, so stop by patreon.com/humanfactorscast to see what support level may be right for you. Thank you, and remember,